こんにちは、ゆうか先生です。いつもビデオを見てくれてありがとうございます。今日のレッスンは教科書GENKI Volume 2のレッスン23からです。Today's lesson is from lesson 23 from the textbook GENKI Volume 2. I'll leave the link to the book in the show more section below so you can purchase it on Amazon if you are interested. I cover the same lesson in my online course 日本語4 Japanese 4 Terform Master Course. I can hardly answer your questions here on YouTube, but I always respond to my students' questions in my online courses. So if you need my support for your Japanese learning journey, join my online course. I'll leave the information in the description box below. I also offer course packages with a discount. For now, I have this complete package that includes all of my courses.It may not be available by the time you're watching this video, so please check the description box below for more information. We have just used the phrase how to, kata, in the previous session for pronunciation. For instance, how to use chopsticks is お箸の使い方。So, to request, would you tell me or teach me how to use chopsticks? You have to say, お箸の使い方を教えてもらえますか? In this lesson, I'm going to focus on this expression, kata, and get into a more detailed explanation as to how to use this phrase. Let's quickly review the basics of how to, kata in Japanese.The basic structure is this. You combine the stem of the verb with kata as you see here. To come up with the stem of the verb, you have to think of its mas form, as in 使います. The top part of the verb after you take off the mas ending is the stem of the verb. So in this case, 使い is the stem of this verb.And then you add kata to say how to use. So how to use is 使い方。使い方。How to go is 生き方。生き方。How to make is 作り方。作り方。And then how to do is やり方。やり方。I have one comment about this one. やり方。This came from the verb やります which means to do or to perform. But you can also use this verb します as a base and then say 仕方。仕方 to say how to do. They mean the same and it's a matter of the person's tendency or preference of speech. For instance, to say how to do an online business, you can either say オンラインビジネスの仕方 or オンラインビジネスのやり方. Either way is fine and it's up to you. So this is the basic structure of how to in Japanese. You combine the stem of the verb with kata.And you can use these units in a sentence like this. Please tell me or would you tell me how to use chopsticks? 箸 or お箸の使い方を教えてもらえますか? お箸の使い方を教えてもらえますか? お箸 sounds slightly more polite, gentle, or feminine than just 箸 since it has the honorific prefix o added to the noun. And when you use the expression kata, you mark the direct object with the particle no as you see here. So how to use chopsticks is お箸の使い方. Likewise, if you want to request,Would you tell me how to make sushi? Then you have to say 寿司 or お寿司の作り方を教えてもらえますか？お寿司の作り方を教えてもらえますか？ Of course, you can use kata for sentences other than request. For instance, to say, I learned how to use chopsticks. Then you can say, お箸の使い方を習いました。お箸の使い方を習いました。I learned how to make sushi is お寿司の作り方を習いました。お寿司の作り方を習いました。The verb 習います means to learn something and it automatically implies that someone taught you the skill. If that's not the case and you learned it by yourself, then you can use this one instead. 覚えました。I learned how to use chopsticks. お箸の使い方を覚えました。I learned how to make sushi. お寿司の作り方を覚えました。This way, it means you now know how to do it, but it doesn't indicate how you learned it. It can be the case that someone taught you the skill or you learned it by yourself by watching YouTube or something. Okay, from here, I'm going to dive into the details of how to use particles with the expression kata. Please take notes, okay? Take a look at these three phrases here. Use chopsticks. お箸を使います。Go to the station. 駅に行きます。Study 漢字。漢字を勉強します。When you add how to these phrases, you first need to change the ending mas to kata, right? And then change this direct object marker o to no. Now, when you have a destination like the second phrase, go to the station. You can also replace the particle ni with no. So, how to go to the station, meaning how to get to the station in Japanese is 駅の行き方。駅の行き方。So, this is the first thing that I want you to remember. When you say how to, kata, the original particle o and ni are replaced by no, as you see here. Okay, the second thing that I want you to know is this. When you use a compound verb with kata, as in the third example, how to study, you have to separate the noun and the verb do. The verb study is a compound verb, meaning it's a combination of the noun study, 勉強, and the verb do, します。When you use a compound verb like this one with kata, you first need to separate the noun and then します like this. And then add the particle no in between. So how to study kanji in Japanese is 漢字の勉強の仕方。漢字の勉強の仕方。You do the same with any compound verb that has します in it. Let's use cook salmon as an example, which is サーモンを料理します。サーモンを料理します。If you want to say how to cook salmon, now you need to separate 料理 and します。Take out the stem of the verb します which is し and then say サーモンの料理の仕方。This is how you say how to cook salmon in Japanese. サーモンの料理の仕方。Let me show you one more example with a compound verb. Reserve a hotel. ホテルを予約します。ホテルを予約します。Now, to say how to reserve a hotel, you have to say ホテルの予約の仕方。ホテルの予約の仕方。So this is the second thing that I want you to remember. When you use a compound verb with kata, be sure to separate the noun and then she, and then put the particle no in between. Okay, I'm going to make the phrase a little bit more complex, so please pay attention, okay? This phrase, ホテルの予約の仕方 means how to reserve a hotel, right? Now, let's say you want to add a means or a tool to do the action, as in how to reserve a hotel on the smartphone. When you add a means or a tool to the sentence, you have to mark it with the particle で. So here you have to say スマホで, meaning by means of the smartphone. We want to add this part to the phrase how to, kata, and this is how you do it. You add the particle no here. This time, no doesn't replace で but has to be added to で. Why? Because the particle で is neither o nor ni. So this is another thing that I want you to keep in mind. For the phrase how to, kata, the particle no replaces o and ni. But for other particles, you have to keep the original particle and add no to it. So how to reserve a hotel on the smartphone in Japanese is スマホでのホテルの予約の仕方。スマホでのホテルの予約の仕方。This applies to any particles other than o or ni. Take a look at this phrase now. How to do business with Japanese people. When you do something together with someone, you need to mark the person or people with the particle と. So, with Japanese people is 日本人と. Now we want to say how to do business with Japanese people. Since we have the particle と here, which is not o or ni, we cannot drop it. We have to keep it here and then add no to it. So how to do business with Japanese people in Japanese is 日本人とのビジネスの仕方。日本人とのビジネスの仕方。So if you want to say, I learned how to do business with Japanese people, you say, 日本人とのビジネスの仕方を覚えました。日本人とのビジネスの仕方を覚えました。On a side note, if you usually use the particle へ to mark a destination, you cannot drop it either when you use kata, okay? For instance, go to the station is either 駅に行きます or 駅へ行きます right? So, how to go to the station can be either 駅の行き方駅の行き方 or 駅への行き方駅への行き方 You drop the particle に but you have to keep the particle へ when you use the destination in the phrase how to, kata. So, in Japan, when you need to ask someone, Would you tell me how to get to the station? You can say, 駅の行き方を教えてもらえますか ?or 駅への行き方を教えてもらえますか Today in this lesson, we learned how to use particles with the expression kata. I hope you now feel more confident to make sentences with kata by yourself in Japanese. By the way, in case you are already studying kanji, let me show you the kanji for kata for this meaning, how to. It looks like this in kanji. Okay, to wrap up today's lesson, let's see if you can do this. Can you say this in Japanese? I learned how to pay a visit to a shrine. You can use either 習いました or 覚えました to say learned. It's your choice. Pay a visit to a shrine is either 神社をお参りします or 神社でお参りします。Let's use this one today. 神社でお参りします。Can you say, I learned how to pay a visit to a shrine in Japanese by using the information that you see here on the slide? I'll leave the answer below this video, but please try the translation for yourself first before you check the answer, okay? I hope you enjoyed the lesson. If you liked the lesson and are interested in my online course, Japanese 4, or course packages with a discount, please check the description box below. ではまた次のレッスンで会いましょう。